Joining us then, as he joins us now, is going to be Eliot Shorr-Parks. He's sponsored by Cozy Jewelers. Step up to the fifth C. That's color, cut, clarity, carrot, and cozy. Eliot, how we doing?
What up? How you guys doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, Ellie, but before we get started, Ellie, we had a little bit of a problem on the show yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, and it had something to do with you. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, I didn't have a problem, but my co-host,
We were a little
they
bit
had
hurt.
a little bit of a problem with you, man.
Okay.
So we about to put
I'm
you on the
excited
stand.
to get into it. Yeah.
We about to put you on the stand, dog. Just let you know.
Okay, all right.
All right, so Eliot, you tweeted out a couple days ago your scoop on Malachi Starks, right? That the Eagles
Correct, yes.
they have interest,
They had him in, well, no, the scoop was they used a top 30 visit on him.
and you do think they'd have interest in him in the draft. Obviously.
Yes, yeah,
Okay. So that was great.
Oh, I know where this is going.
And when you tweeted
See, I just
it,
wanted to say before we get started, I didn't have a problem with it because I understand your position.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
My
okay,
co-host,
so
they
you
ain't
tweeted
really
it.
like, they ain't like
Have
tweeted
a backbone.
Tweeted it during the day, right? You put it
Yes,
out there,
yeah.
and you tagged WIP
Naturally.
and the afternoon show.
For obvious reasons.
Well, that's right, because they do the Eagles Insider.
Yes.
I didn't have a problem with that because I knew what you were doing.
I mean, you got to
I
play
w-
the game.
Well, but I wouldn't have had a problem with it either, except you tweeted it during our show. We were live on the air, and you ignored the midday show with some a scoop. Like, we could have talked about it.
So I do think, actually, in retrospect, the best move for me would have been to call in and say I have breaking news.
That would have
been the best move.
That's what an Insider of the Year
Yeah,
does.
you're right. No, that's a good point. And look, I think this is good constructive criticism for next time.
way,
right?
way to work the system.
Yeah, I
Way
think
to work
that's the way to do it. But I would also say, when you guys give me a trophy, I'll tag you in my tweets.
That's what I'm telling them again.
Yeah, like if you want to,
You got to know
You're
your
on
brand.
his side.
No,
You
I'm just
know.
saying, you got to know your brands.
You got to buy your way into those mentions.
Guilty. I mean, we supported you for Eagles Insider of the Year.
You did. You're right.
Yeah.
You guys have always had my back. Yeah.
I mean,
I'll still have his back. I just thought it was. I mean, I didn't
no,
have a
it
problem
is.
with it.
I think calling in might be my new thing.
Okay, that's fine.
I
I mean,
know,
I don't want to
I'm
go
thoroughly
there, but
irritated, Kyle.
I mean, we do have a chance at a 4-hour propaganda scheme against someone next year. If we need,
You're
if we
right.
need
You're
to
right.
go there.
I have to court all the voters,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
since Spike and Jack will never vote for me.
Well,
so
that's
I got to
exactly-
court,
Hugh,
the
you-
real football guys at the station.
You put him on the stand, and then all 5'9" of him walks in the studio
And you laugh.
and looked at you, and you
Whoa, whoa,
crumbled.
whoa, whoa,
No,
whoa, whoa, whoa.
I've been an advocate for Elliot since day one.
You
Yeah.
crumbled.
I like his
crumbled.
bravado, but I put him on the stand. I told him they were coming.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I did tell you they're coming after you.
No, I appreciate
I
the
It
feel
feels
heads
like you
up.
didn't
problem
take
with
it
it.
seriously, though, like the pledge.
Also,
Take it
I like that
seriously. I
Kyle
did.
says all 5'9" of me, as if Kyle's like 6'4" or something like that.
I'm 6 foot. I
Well,
mean,
he's basically
Nah,
he
you're
was
not
saying
really
he's taller
6
than
foot.
you, but he's
well,
tall.
he might be
says
taller
he's
than me, but yeah, I don't think he comes across as taller.
What
than me.
percentage of people that
that's
are
not how it works.
I think we're
That's not how
roughly the
height
same
works.
size.
Come across.
If we were at a bar, no one would be like, "There's the tall friend."
Yeah, okay. I see
They're
what
like,
you're
both
saying.
of those guys are average height.
Height is not subjective.
I think if both of us were in the same place, nobody would be like, Kyle is way taller than Elliot.
Well, no, but that's because
Yeah.
it's not significant. But like, I just
He said, but it's significant to you.
yeah, so Mr. 5'9" over here.
Well, like, hold on, because I think it mattered in talking about how Hugh just was intimidated by when
I
you
was
walked
not
in.
intimidated. I
Not
thought
an
it was-
intimidating guy.
First of all,
You were supposed to be the muscle.
you
and
act like if
wow.
I was
I
6
didn't
foot,
have-
he
but
would
I
be
didn't-
intimidated.
but I
I think
didn't-
I could be 6'4" and there would
But-
be
but
no
hold on,
problem.
but 5'9" hits
would
different
not-
than
I
6
didn't have a
foot.
problem with
No,
it.
he gets squirrely when people stand up, and you stand up
Yeah.
during our times where you're
I'm
in the
always
studio.
surprised. I mean, I know you guys do it for 4 hours every day, but when I sit, I feel like I can't do it as well.
I know. I like.
Yeah, you're a stander.
I'm a standard.
Yeah.
Well,
Does-
because I'm
doesn't-
5'9", you know?
Doesn't 5'9" hit different than 6 foot?
Of course.
Of course
does.
it does.
Thank you.
I
Okay.
agree.
Well,
But
that's the point.
But I agree. It sounds
I think you're
different.
asking the wrong people.
And
though.
like on a dating profile,
gotta ask
I
women.
agree. But like, yeah. Well, to Hugh's point, if me and him both had dating profiles, and he said he was 6 foot and I was 5'9", I think he would have a better shot.
Hold on.
But if we were in a bar, I don't think they'd be like, "Look at the tall guy."
Okay, well, there's dating profiles, but what about in an intimidation standpoint from like you're boxing somebody? The 6 foot guy has
Well,
a
Elliot
significant
boxes.
Well, I was
advantage.
gonna say I do take boxing
but
classes.
Elliot's a boxer.
do you fight 6
oh
footers?
heck, look at you.
Yeah. Well, I'm not fighting yet.
Do you fight 6 footers, or would you?
Wait a minute, yet? Will you fight someone one day?
No, I mean,
He said one day.
I mean,
yeah.
I was just
maybe
saying
if it's
we're-
a very safe environment where the
Well, we're
promise is
selling-
not
If
to
I
hurt
keep
me.
calling him 5'9"
Yeah, I
with
was
that
about to
aggressive
say, this
tone,
might be the
then
first
he's gonna go
WIP
back
fight.
here.
I'm just saying, we're selling tickets to BG Live. If you get in a boxing ring, we could sell tickets to that.
Yeah, I think that would do well.
I mean, people would show up to
I
that.
agree.
Oh, the tickets would fly
I
off
agree.
the
I
shelves.
didn't realize how much footwork is part of boxing, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
figured it
a
would
lot.
just be like who
Because
can
you got
hit
to
hard.
follow through.
Muhammad
with the
Ali?
punches. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a whole body because when you throw a punch, you throw it from your legs. I mean, you know
Right.
it's the arm, but you throw it from your legs.
Yeah. I would say not intimidating when I do the Ali shuffle is what they call it in class. It doesn't come across as
The
intimidating.
Elliot shuffle?
I'm shocked.
Yeah, it looks like just kind
The
of
Shorr-Parks
prancing
shuffle.
around.
The
yeah.
Shore-Park Shuffle could really get some run.
Yeah.
All right, Elliot, let's talk about yesterday and what's coming up. 8 days away from the draft. Howie spoke yesterday and Nick. So we've been discussing today, where do you come down on the Eagles and their ability to draft well? So the last 4 years, their first 2 picks in each year have been hits. I mean, like they've gotten either their stars or at least they've contributed a good amount to some winning football and championship football. Have they really figured this out? Because you remember the old days with Howie, even just 5-6 years ago, people said he couldn't draft. Now some people think he can't miss. Where are you on Howie as a drafter?
So I think the Eagles are just as good at talent evaluation now as they were back in the day. Like when they drafted Dillard, when they drafted Reagor. I don't think they have a better eye for talent now than they did then. So in that way, I don't think they've figured it out. But I think the difference between the Eagles now and the Eagles back then is if you're a rookie on this team coming in, it is so much easier for you to succeed because of the talent on the roster. Like when Dillard came here and Reagor came here, they had talent on the roster, but it wasn't where, I mean, you guys know now when you look at the team, like when offense, you could argue every player on the offense is top 5 at their position. On defense, they're probably not there yet, but they are ultra talented on defense. So whoever they drafted 32 this year will have a chance to step into a role where they are surrounded by talent and it will make them easier to succeed. So I think that's part of it. But I also think they're organizationally better at developing players than they were back then. I think they have a better coaching staff. I think Nick is so much better and cares more about developing talent than Doug did. And so just the time they spend throughout the week developing these guys, I think is a key part of it. So I don't think they're better at evaluating players. I just think they have a better infrastructure once the player gets here.
That's an interesting perspective because, J.L.X. Hunt, right? He kind of came out of nowhere and he helped. And you can make a case that was similar to when they took Davion Taylor, but he was a bust, right, where he didn't work out. I hadn't thought about that maybe it's not the picks, it's how they're developing the players.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've been on.
Even though they go hand in hand.
Yeah, because it's like you get in, it's almost like when you go to college, you learn, and if you don't know how to study, then it's an issue. So you have to learn how to study. But when you come here, they take the skills that they've already identified that you have, and they apply them to help you be a successful pro. Well, that's kind of how I look at it.
I would say, too, to keep that analogy going, like the smartest people at school are not always the people that are smartest. They're just the people that are most disciplined, the people that have the most help, the people, right? So
it's not IQ always.
And I do think one thing I've learned, I think at least from 12 years of covering the team, is the guys on the practice squad are still ultra talented. They just don't get the opportunity that the starters do. Obviously, the starters are better. But the point I'm making is, everyone in the NFL is talented. Like, Jalen Reagor is, top 5% in the world at football. But when Jalen Reagor got here, I don't think the Eagles were as well positioned to help a player like him as they are now. So I think these guys that will get drafted next week, I think there will be players who are more talented than the guys the Eagles draft, but the guy the Eagles draft has a better chance of success because of where he goes.
Probably, but some of it has also been some luck, right? Like if you redraft last year, or if they did it again the next night, Quinyon and Cooper don't last to 22 and 40.
Well, I don't think I think actually none of that's luck.
Well, how is it not luck? If the player gets taken ahead of you, you can't take that player.
But then you could argue that's true of every pick besides the first pick in the draft. Like, there's no luck. That's just how it played out. Like, 21 teams passed on
Fortunate.
Quinyon.
They were fortunate then.
But I don't think that's fortunate.
Well, what is it?
I think it's just how it played out. 21 teams made a mistake not 21, but you get my point. Like, a lot of teams passed on Quinyon, and that was poor evaluation by them. And the Eagles did benefit from that, but I don't think that's luck.
But if it didn't happen, the Eagles don't draft as good of a player. Like, it's nothing to do with the Eagles. Right, but besides actually calling in the pick, the Quinyon had to be on the board for them. If Quinyon's not there,
right,
it's the same Eagles.
But it's not. But it's not like they randomized 21 names prior. Like teams went and made the selection.
Sure. So well, how about? Oh, let's go to Cooper then. He shouldn't have been the 40th pick, right? Clearly, he's a first-round player based on what we just saw last year.
Yes,
there's some luck involved.
But I think by you saying luck is involved, in my opinion, you're slightly diminishing what the Eagles did. Like, they were the team that took Cooper. They were the team that traded up for Cooper. They were the team that developed Cooper. Those other teams didn't luck out of not getting Cooper. They elected not to take Cooper.
I agree. But if the Eagles are just as smart if the team before them takes Cooper DeJean, but they just don't get Cooper DeJean. Like, have the Eagles gotten any better at this? Nor do they get a little bit more fortunate that a player that was really good just was there.
Well, but I think what you're talking to is the Eagles are better at this than other teams. So because of that, we can sit here and go, well, how did no one else take Cooper DeJean? Well, the Eagles took him because they're better at I think they're better evaluating talent, but also you're looking at Cooper as a finished product. Like, I don't know if Cooper DeJean gets drafted by the Browns if we're sitting here and going, how in the world did he fall to 40?
Sure, but I think over the last few years, there's been quite a few times. I remember Nolan Smith, we were doing the draft show, Cooper, we're like, the best player on the board on TV is there when they pick. You know what I mean? Like, a guy that's not supposed to be there.
Right.
I feel like it keeps happening, and I hope it happens again. But I don't know, is that sustainable that a guy that's supposed to be the 15th best player is there at 30?
See, but the reason I think what the Eagles have is sustainable is because it's not based on the player they draft. It's about when they get into the building, how it works there.
So you're kind of with Hugh that this is an infrastructure development thing more than Howie.
For sure. Yeah, I think I honestly think Nick Sirianni doesn't get enough credit. Like, how many players under Nick have reached their full potential?
A lot.
I mean, Saquon, AJ, Devontae, Jalen. I mean, all these guys have turned in career years
Dickerson,
under Nick.
Juergens.
And the rookies.
Yeah.
I don't think it's coincidence that since Nick has gotten here, these players are developing. And look, Stoutland deserves credit. Fangio deserves credit. Christian Parker.
Well, that's his staff.
The coaching staff. Yeah, the coaching staff deserves credit.
All right, Elliot, after yesterday, what's your feeling on this? Like, if you had a guess right now, next Thursday night, we're doing the draft show. 3 options. They trade up, they stay at 32, or they move back and we don't have a pick in round 1. Like, what do you think is the most, like, if you had a guess right now, what would you say happens?
I think they are most likely to trade up. And I would say second would be stay put and third would be trade back. I think we have this idea that they'll trade back because they did it in 2018 or, after the 2017 season. So, 2018 draft. But they only had 5 picks in that draft.
And Lamar Jackson was there.
So if there's no quarterback and, like, look, you never know what the offer will be. But if there isn't a quarterback, the Eagles don't need to go out and collect picks. They also have a ton of picks in next year's draft. So I think the value of the 5th-year option in the first round does matter for a team that is, I don't want to say financially strapped, but it is more complicated than it's been in other years in terms of their money and who they have to pay. But I also think you heard Howie say it yesterday. If they don't have 32 first-round players in this draft, then I think that means they're more likely to trade up.
I felt that too.
Yeah, I don't think it's a trade-out thing.
With that.
I felt that too, and it was kind of weird because I thought he would give an answer like, "Hey, we think we're going to get a good player where we pick." He didn't say that. He said we don't have 32 first-round grades, which is
I think he's just being honest.
I know, but this is in this lying season. Like, he chose to be honest yesterday.
Well, I also think that the whole thing with this is, I guarantee you, if they draft a player in the first round, like, they will say they had a first-round grade.
Of course,
on
they're going to say he was one of the 16 or 17.
It's subjective, right?
He will say that too.
Yeah.
But I do.
Well, you have Super Bowl syndrome.
I do not have Super Bowl syndrome.
Everyone hears it.
Well, what's wrong with Super Bowl syndrome?
I have clear and concise
because
vision.
when you have Super Bowl syndrome, you're not seeing things as clearly
I
because
see
you're
it
clouded
clearly.
by the Super Bowl.
I'm not. I gave you some strong reasons, even though Jamal talking about I'm gray area Hugh.
Well,
I'm not.
You are.
I gave you strong reasons why I felt the way that I felt.
Accountability lacks in Super Bowl syndrome.
See, but I would counter.
There was a caller in the morning show today that said the Eagles could draft a truck driver from Philadelphia with the 32nd pick, and they would be good with it.
It's out of control.
That's Super Bowl syndrome.
But let me ask you this:
I don't have that.
but just to play devil's advocate a little bit here, I think you guys have like overly critical syndrome. Like, they are.
I don't even know what I'm
hold
critical
on.
about.
They win like 80% of the games they play. They made 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. They won a Super Bowl. They won 2 Super Bowls in 7 years. Obviously, they drafted a truck driver. That would right. But in all seriousness, they drafted a rugby player who had never played the game,
in the 7th round.
Yes,
syndrome.
But I'm saying, I think you're attacking Hugh, which is nothing new here.
attack me every
Unfortunately,
day.
yeah, it's unfair. You're calling it Super Bowl syndrome. At what point is it just they deserve the benefit of the doubt?
Benefit of the doubt's different than blind faith, though. Like, I think we can still analyze critically the moves that they make in the future without just saying, well, they won the Super Bowl, so this is fine. They can still fail.
I agree with that, but I also think that we need to acknowledge it right now. They are clicking on all cylinders, and most moves they make are working out.
Yeah, sure, but they're the best organization in football.
It never is what it seems, though. Like, I could make the same case that when they drafted Jalen Hurts, everyone flipped out it was a great pick. They might pick a player next Thursday that is a bad football player, and everyone's going to call on Friday and say, I love it. That's where, just like in 2020,
that's the syndrome.
That in 2020, Jalen Hurts was a great pick, and 80% of this town said, fire Howie.
So
so we just go too far with whatever we're in. We're happy now.
Right,
We're angry
I
then.
get that, but I think what I'm saying though is, like, they are operating at a level right now where the chances of the player they draft being a Pro Bowl player next week are like high. Like, there's
or regression to the mean is likely.
No, it's probably 50 to 60%
that a player makes a Pro Bowl.
That the player they draft is really good.
Well, I would say 60% is a very high number. Like,
all right, would you be confident to say it's above 50%?
I'll put it this way. I would be stunned if the player they pick next week is a bust. I would be stunned.
I wouldn't.
At 32?
They're
At
due
32,
they're due
I
for
would
one.
be stunned. No, but you're saying they're due for one. That's not the way to look at it, in my opinion. They are operating right now at a level where the players they plug into their system have such a better chance of success that the chance of it being a bust are so slim.
If Steph Curry makes 7 threes in a row, would you be stunned if he missed the 8th? I wouldn't. He's due to miss. He's a great shooter, but he's not going to make every shot.
I agree with that, but the difference, in my opinion, is that is based off of one action, which is just shooting a basketball. This player is coming into a system.
There's a lot
where,
that goes on.
Yeah, there's like a lot of things would have to fail in with their current structure.
I get it.
Yeah, like think if they draft a right guard, right? He's going to be blocking for Saquon. He's going to have Jalen at quarterback. He's going to be playing between Lane and Cam Jurgens. Like the chance of this player failing are so slim. So I think that would be where I would push back on calling it Super Bowl syndrome. Like, if the guy they draft next Thursday has a very good chance of being a Pro Bowl player, and saying that is not Super Bowl syndrome. It's just the reality of where this team is.
Bryce Huff came into a system and it didn't work out. It's not 100% hit rate.
It's not 100%.
And I
you're
think
right.
people operate under the assumption that it kind of is, or close to it, and it's not.
It's not 100%.
It's way closer to 50-50.
No, but I think it's way higher than 50-50.
I disagree. No.
How many players that start for them are bad?
Well,
Look at their free agent.
Let's use Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis is not bad. That wasn't a great pick at 13.
It wasn't a great pick, but he's not a bust.
Sure, but when you say it, they're due for a bust.
I don't think they're due for a bust. I think you're looking at this in a flawed way. Like to compare it to Steph Curry.
So they'll never have a bust again.
No, they will. It will happen, but I would not bet on it. I mean, you're right that they're due in the way that they're not going to hit 100% on every draft pick for that. But where you're wrong is you're thinking it's going to happen this year.
I'm not.
You have no reason to think it'll happen other than just maybe it'll happen.
No,
but if you look at how they
think
draft,
it's just as likely. Like it's 50-50. It's the 32nd.
It's not 50-50 though.
But it is.
I think it's more like 80-20.
So the Eagles math trumps NFL math. Is that what we're saying now? Like the
yes,
history of the draft.
I am saying I'm saying no, it's not syndrome. The way they are drafting right now, why in the world would you think it's 50-50?
Because the 32nd pick has about a 50% chance of being a good player.
And I
There's
think
a
that
law of
is,
averages at some point.
but I think the average of the 32nd pick over the history of the NFL is a borderline meaningless stat.
Wait a second. That's the best team in the league. Like, think about that pick. Now, sometimes people trade in. It could be the Browns.
The Chiefs drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 32.
Right, the best team
and they have the best operation going in football.
You just said the Eagles were the best organization
right, but it's
in football.
debatable between the team that is a dynasty right now. I mean, we can be honest about things, right?
Yeah, no, the Chiefs are unbelievable. I think a player that goes there is a good chance to succeed, right?
Well, sure.
But for what it's worth, the Chiefs have not been a great drafting team. The Eagles have been a great drafting team.
Now, but 4 years ago, people didn't think that. Like, what I mean is,
but why does 5 years ago matter more than the last 4 years?
But it all matters.
Yeah,
even
it's the totality.
It's like a kid that gets 3 A's, but they got 3 C's before that. They're a B student.
The syndrome is weighing this more than all of it.
Was Nick Sirianni even in the head coach 5 years ago? No, right? This will be his 5th year coming up. So why does Doug Peterson's staff in 2020 impact how you feel about the chance of
it's Howie Roseman though?
But I'm saying the infrastructure that the right, but Howie making the pick is somewhat a small part of this. Like, it is a part of it, clearly. But once that player gets in the building, they have set it up where this guy can succeed. Yeah. So I get your point. They're not going to hit on every one. But to say 50-50, I think is just like almost completely ignoring what's happening down there.
But I think Doug's teams also did win a Super Bowl and had a pretty good structure in place.
We're just assuming the Eagles have figured out something that no one has ever really figured out for a long period of time. Teams have great runs. The Patriots had some great runs drafting the Chiefs. But, like, no one does this in the draft for 10 years.
But I don't think they've figured it out. I think that they are clicking on all cylinders right now. And you're by saying it 50-50, you're somewhat assuming that is going to fall apart and next year. And I don't think that's going to be the case. So in 5 years from now, maybe 50-50 or even less than 50-50. But this year, I think it's like 80-20.
But it's also an inexact science. Like, did the Patriots get dumb, or did they just eventually made some picks that didn't go their way? I don't know.
Well, the Patriots fell apart too.
Right, but they were great at something, and then they fell off at some point. This happens to every team in the NFL. Look, they could hit next week, and I think they very well might. I'm just saying I'm not.
But if you're saying it's 50-50, then you don't think it's very well. Like, you don't think they very well might if you're saying it's 50-50. Well, you think they have a
50-50.
Yeah, but that's not you don't have confidence going into the pick. No one would say you have confidence in a 50-50 outcome.
I do not have confidence they're going to pick a player that is going to be like Quinyon again. Like that.
Why? They just did it.
Because how often do you get a Quinyon Mitchell that is that good in his rookie year and helps you win the Super Bowl?
Well, they've done it the last 4 years.
I understand, but that to me is why this is why I was annoyed at free agency, because I think they think they figured this out. Like, screw the free agents, we're going to draft our way to championships.
To go back to the Steph thing, if he made 7 straight threes, right?
Yeah.
Would you bet he would make the 8th?
No.
I think that'd be foolish.
I think that's a good spot to bet that he won't. Actually,
That's where you bet
he could miss. But the point I'm making
That's
is
where
like
you fade him.
But the only argument you have is he could. There's no real reason to think the pick will fail next week.
But that's just reality.
It's not reality.
Well, it is. No, that he could miss a 3 is absolutely reality.
It's reality he could. It's reality he could, but the reality is not that the pick is likely or 50-50. The reality is the pick is likely going to be a very good player. That is the reality of the world we're living in.
I don't think it's likely.
Well, you have no reason to counter. So
well,
it's the 32nd pick in the draft. It comes at about a 50% hit rate. That's the pick.
But you're looking at the history of the league. That is less relevant than this current situation.
More.
No, it's not.
It's a larger sample.
But it's irrelevant to what we're talking about now.
Why?
Because if you told me over the next 10 or 20 years what the hit rate would be for 32, then I think your information is relevant. But what we're talking about is the player that will be selected at 32. We know the team he's going to. We know the setup. Like, your thing is based off of just averages of a billion situations. But again, we're talking about a situation we know the outcome of.
Right, but most of those teams were the best team in the league, and they only hit 50%. Like the team that picks 32 just won the Super Bowl, right? Again, I know they could trade in and out.
You can just say it, yeah.
Right, so they're only hitting 50%. Why would the Eagles now hit at 80?
Because the Eagles have hit at 80%, if not 100%, over the past 4 drafts.
So I'm to believe something is so inherently different than the Howie of 6 years ago. Nick?
Yes, I think the Eagles are very different than they were 6 years ago. And also, I would say, when's the last time you saw a roster as talented as this roster?
Well, I mean,
offensive line, receiver, running back, quarterback. Right. So I think that factors in as well.
Sure, but I mean, Kyle brought up a good one. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The Chiefs are really good. Andy's really good.
But the difference between the Chiefs, in my opinion, is the Chiefs really don't have special skill players. They have Mahomes, Kelsey, and Reed.
But that's the best offensive coach in the league. Shouldn't that be the structure in place to get the most out of a talented player?
But the structure to help a player, the structure to help a player is not scheme, right? The structure to help a player.
Partly.
No, it's part of it, but I think the bigger part of a structure is, are they coaching them throughout the week? Are they getting extra reps to develop, right? Do they have someone in the building that is dedicated to helping this player adjust to the NFL?
Why wouldn't every team think they have that?
The Eagles are hitting at a higher rate, so clearly.
But the Chiefs, though, like the Chiefs aren't just some scrub team. Like every team obviously thinks what they're doing is the best.
But would you say the Chiefs are a good drafting team?
No, that's the point.
So then why are we using them as an example? They're a great team, but they're not good at drafting. The Eagles are good at drafting.
But they have been just for a few years.
But that's like...
It's not like they always have been.
It's like saying...
We've seen a large sample size with the same guy who... There was a sign across the damn river, Elliot. The sign across the river.
Things have changed. I don't know what you want me to say.
I know, but that's Jalen Reagor in the first round.
Yes, but I don't get why you're using older information to inform your current opinion.
It's all of the information.
But you are leaning on less relevant information.
Not necessarily. We're
I don't
just
get
using
why
all of it. I think leaning too far on the most recent is the syndrome.
I didn't say 100%, but for you to say
the syndrome is some people are.
Okay, so if you have a student that gets a bunch of C's for a while, then gets a bunch of A's, and you say, what do you think is going to happen next? I'd say a B is probably on the way. So because it's a B student.
But I would also argue that if he's getting A's now, you can look and say he is a better student than he was when he was getting the C's.
I think that's fair. That's fair. But if we've gone so far to
better, but it's not a guaranteed.
But that's not a syndrome. I feel like you guys are diminishing.
Well,
I think you're not understanding what the syndrome actually is.
Because I think you're.
I have syndrome. I have vision.
He just keeps it real. Like
I keep it a B every day.
I think to say
you can't realize the syndrome he has.
I think to say that the idea that you trust the Eagles more in this draft because of the recent success is fine. That's not the syndrome. The syndrome is whatever they do, I'm fine with it.
See,
I never said that though. I just want to say because y'all over here saying I got the syndrome.
I think
never said that.
You express
other symptoms. Yeah.
No, you said that was one of the symptoms, and I don't express though. I don't have those.
No, yeah, one of them.
No, that's not. No, see, you changed.
You have other symptoms.
No, I gave you concrete evidence of why I feel the way that I feel.
What evidence?
There's no evidence.
See y'all like how they like to move
but like they have the syndrome. I don't know what to call it, but they are openly hating.
Debbie Downer syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
We got the Debbie Downer syndrome.
What hating?
Hey, Debbie Downer syndrome is a good way to put it.
That's a Debbie Downer syndrome.
It's not Debbie Downer. It's reality. Debbie Downer is the reality of the situation.
Y'all are always looking for something bad to happen.
Me and Hugh are living in reality.
Yeah,
we're just attacking it from all angles.
What reality are you
the reality of this team has hit on every pick in the first 2 rounds for the past 4 years.
Yeah,
so why are we being overly optimistic to say it'll probably happen again? What's the syndrome there?
Debbie Downer.
The syndrome is the guy saying that if they draft a freaking what was the guy? Truck driver? Yeah. It's like, can we have opinions on what you think the Eagles should do and what we think is best for the team now?
The funny part is we did this twice already, and they've gone backwards each time. But this time it's going to be different.
So I agree. Now, that's a different discussion. I do agree with you on that, right? But ultimately, if I had to place a bet on if the pick at 32 is going to be a hit, I think it is a better than 50-50 odd.
So, all right. So that's fine.
Thank you.
My position is, I think it's very unlikely they get the impact in year one out of these first 2 picks this year they have in the last few years, and it's going to hurt next year's team.
Why do you think it's less likely?
Very unlikely.
Why?
Because the odds say it doesn't happen.
So at 22, you feel like, okay, that could happen. But at 32, there's no shot.
No, I didn't say there's no shot. But this offseason, they lost a lot of talent, right? We got to hit this. But they've lost a lot of talent.
I'd push back on that, too. But go ahead.
They have lost a lot of talent, and their way of filling those holes is going to be through the draft, right? This is the biggest asset they're going to use the entire offseason. They didn't sign anyone of note, right? I like Ojulari like you, but the odds of that player having the impact of their number 1 free agent from a year ago or the number 1 draft pick is so slim.
But I disagree.
It just is.
But we just saw Quinyon do it. We just saw Quinyon and their second-round pick, who was drafted later than 32, do it.
But we just saw the Zach Bond thing happen. Like, what's the likelihood that just because they did it most recently, that's going to happen again?
Aziz Ojulari is going to be this year's Bond?
The last thing I'll say is what you guys are missing is you're using information that's relevant to other teams. The Eagles are operating right now where we could have confidence that the way they're operating, they're going to hit way more than they're going to miss.
This is Super Bowl syndrome.
It's the infrastructure.
I think you guys have Debbie Downer syndrome.
No, the Eagles aren't so far above everyone that we can't question everything.
They won the championship game in the Super Bowl by 50 total points.
That's great.
What else would you define so ahead of everybody?
The NFL's not set up like that. You don't continue to stay above everyone just because you were.
But I think
the league brings you back.
But I think there is. Okay.
They're already back. They're not as good as they were on that day.
Look, I appreciate you guys trying to present the argument to keep us all honest, but I think
that's what we're doing.
We're not
the Super Bowl syndrome thing, I think, is incorrect.
Oh, it's out there. All right, Elliot.
Maybe they'll draft a truck driver, and we'll find out.
Well, you and I both know what the truth of this is, right? What will test this city to see if no matter what Howie does it, it's fine.
Take a quarterback.
That's it, and we'll find out next week.
The syndrome thing hits a nerve with people.
I know,
I've
of course.
I
wonder why.
Elliot,
I don't hear the nerve. I'm just trying to understand why can't you see my vision?
You crash out when we say this.
215-592.
I think you're missing your opinion skewed as well. But
Jamal hurt my feelings with that grade.